What's up, Raider Nation? Today we're diving into some realistic second-round draft options for the silver and black. We've already talked about first-round possibilities, but this class is deep, maybe even more unpredictable than usual. Here's what makes this draft different. Outside of a few top-tier names, like CamWard, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and maybe Armoni Winfield, the rankings are wide open. A player projected to go 5th overall might just as easily fall to pick 18. And someone expected in the teens could slide into the second round. There's just not a huge gap between a lot of these prospects. Last year, guys like Olu Fashanu were locked in top 15 picks. No way they'd fall to round 2. But this year, you've got someone like Will Campbell being talked about as a top 5 pick, yet it wouldn't shock anyone if he's still on the board in the late first. Same goes for Will Johnson. Some see him as a top 10 talent, but others think he might slip out of the first entirely. Even players like Kyle Williams, who's projected for round 3, could sneak into the top 20. That's how unpredictable this draft is. Quarterback is especially interesting. We could see a wave of them taken in the second and third rounds. I'm talking about guys like ShedeurSanders and JacksonDart. Neither may go in the top 5, but teams picking in the later part of the first, like Pittsburgh or Miami, might see value there. If they slip past the first round, the Raiders should absolutely consider them early in the second. Shedeur's been on everyone's radar, but don't sleep on Dart. He's raw but talented, with great processing and a quick release. If either is available, they deserve a look. It could come down to how the coaching staff views them, especially if someone like Chip Kelly ends up in Las Vegas in a few years. There's a lot of speculation around that, especially with his background and fit. Other quarterbacks worth watching include Jalen Milroe, Will Howard, and Quinn Ewers. Ewers reportedly had some serious college offers to stay another year, and Milroe could have boosted his stock by returning too. Still, all three have tools that could thrive in the right system. Now, quarterback might be a hot topic, but let's talk running backs, because that's where things get even more intriguing. There's a real chance we see multiple running backs go in the first round. Saquon Barkley's recent impact may have changed how some front offices view the position. For the Raiders, if Tre'Veon Henderson is there in the second round, he should be a top target. He's fast, explosive, and shifty. His ability to stop and restart at full speed is elite. If the top 2 backs, Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton, are off the board, Henderson should be the next man up. Jeanty and Hampton are likely top 10 picks, so assuming they're gone, Henderson brings similar upside. After him, keep an eye on Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. He's a bigger back, patient, and tough to bring down. Reminds me a bit of Le'Veon Bell. Not the flashiest, but incredibly effective in the right system. If the Raiders want to commit to a strong ground game, especially with a quarterback like Geno Smith under center, adding someone like Johnson could pay off. When Smith played his best ball, it was with a solid run game behind him. Johnson could help recreate that balance in Vegas. In my rankings, Jeanty, Hampton, Henderson, and Johnson round out the top 4. Honestly, I don't see a massive gap between Henderson and Hampton. Hampton's had hype, but he didn't always benefit from North Carolina's system. That makes evaluations a little tricky, and that's just scratching the surface. This class is deep with potential, especially at quarterback and running back, and the Raiders have real opportunities to find value in the second round. Outside of the top 4 running backs we've discussed, Quinshon Judkins is probably the 5th guy I'd keep on the radar. Now, we're not diving into a full third-round breakdown. It gets a bit too deep, but I do want to quickly highlight a few names worth knowing. RJ Harvey out of UCF is one of those names. I really like what he brings to the table. He's not the fastest or most explosive back in the class, but he's strong in all areas. And what really sets him apart is his vision and his jump cut ability. He reminds me a lot of Josh Jacobs. He sees a crease, plants that foot, cuts, and he's gone for 20 to 30 yards. He might not house it every time, but he'll get chunk plays. I think Harvey could be a strong third-round option if the Raiders are still looking at backs. There are some later-round guys I also like. Jordan James from Oregon and Raheem Sanders are intriguing, but probably not worth second- or third-round picks. I'd look at them on day 3. Then there's Marshawn Lloyd from USC, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt out of Arizona, who was the MVP of the East-West Shrine Bowl, and even Shanderick Powell from Central Arkansas. Now Powell is a sleeper. He posted some of the most explosive per-carry numbers in the country, second only to Ashton Jeanty, and he did it on a solid workload, not just 10 carries. At the Hula Bowl, he showed off that speed and vision in a big way. He even had a 70-yard touchdown that was called back on a ticky-tack hold. He's only about 5 feet 7 inches, so he's not a feature back, but he could be dangerous in a change of pace role, especially in a creative offense. Back to second-round targets. Wide receiver is one of the more unpredictable positions every year, and this class is no different. Just look at how guys like Zay Flowers and Justin Jefferson weren't the first receivers taken in their classes, yet they've become elite. Teteroa McMillan is a name to watch. A few weeks ago, he was a projected top 5 pick. Now some mocks have him slipping to the Cowboys at number 12 or even later. If he somehow slides into the second round, he's a no-brainer. He's 6 feet 3.5 inches, has great body control, and would be an absolute steal. Matthew Golden could also be available in the second. He, Emeka Egbuka, and Luther Burden were all mentioned as possible top 10 picks earlier in the process. Now, there's a chance at least one of them falls into the Raiders' range. The wide receiver evaluation process is tricky. Every year, rankings shift as tape gets reviewed and pro day numbers come in. But one guy I'm especially high on is Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Honestly, he might be the most polished receiver in this class outside of Travis Hunter. His release off the line, his first few steps, they're elite. If he played for Ohio State or Alabama, he'd be talked about as a top 15 pick, no question. He chose to stay at Washington State despite transfer offers, and I respect that. But his tape doesn't lie. He's my WR2 right now, and if he's there in the second round, I'm sprinting the card up myself. Another wideout I love is Luther Burden. He's got some Deebo Samuel in his game. Physical, tough to bring down, but with better route-running polish. Missouri didn't have a great season, and quarterback Brady Cook regressed a bit, but Burden still produced. He broke more tackles than any receiver in college football, which tells you a lot. Luther Burden didn't have as many catches this year, but don't let that fool you. Coming into the season, the official NFL scouting service, the same one that sends evaluations to every front office, ranked him as the number one player in the entire class. That's how highly regarded he was. I actually got my hands on one of those scouting reports from a friend who's an agent, and Burden was right at the top. I expect him to go in the top 15, but if somehow he's there in the second round, he's my guy. Now, in yesterday's video, I kind of lumped Burden in with Emeka Egbuka and Matthew Golden, and that was a mistake. I'm not as high on Egbuka or Golden. Here's how I actually rank this receiver class. Travis Hunter is my WR1. Kyle Williams is WR2. Burden is WR3. Teteroa McMillan is right there too. Call it WR3A and 3B, with the slight edge to Burden. Golden and Egbuka, they're my WR4A and 4B. Now shifting to offensive line, this class is interesting. We're probably getting just one true offensive tackle in the top 10, and that's Armand Mabey. After him, it's not guaranteed we see another OT go in the first round. Some teams might reach because tackles are always in demand, especially near the bottom of the first, but names like Josh Simmons and Josh Connerly might not go until early day 2. Will Campbell is another name people bring up. Personally, I wouldn't value him as a tackle, and honestly, I wouldn't even give him a first-round grade as a guard. That might sound harsh, but I've seen guys like Tyler Smith dominate at tackle in college, then kick inside and become elite at guard in the NFL. Campbell hasn't shown that same dominance, and until I see it, I'm not betting on it. One guy I would bet on, Anthony Belton. He played tackle in college, but I think he'll be a monster at guard. He's got that Tyler Smith kind of strength and nastiness. I'd take Belton over Campbell without hesitation, especially if I'm the Raiders and I need a plug-and-play guard. If Belton's on the board in the second round, he's my pick. Another interior lineman I love is Tyler Booker. He's massive, he's strong, and he moves really well for his size. People knocked him for not putting up big bench numbers, but he's got 34.5 to 35-inch arms. Long arms always test lower on the bench. It's physics. Doesn't mean he's weak. In fact, Booker is in the 500-pound bench press club. That's elite power. He's my 1B to Belton's 1A at guard. There are other second-round guards I'd look at too. Donovan Jackson, Tate Ratledge, both are solid. Jonas Savannah? I probably wouldn't take him in the second, but he's worth a look later. And let's not forget about Charles Grant. The Raiders have met with him, and even though he's a bit smaller than Belton, he dominates on tape. Sure, it's William and Mary, but the talent jumps off the screen. Another sleeper? Dylan Fairchild. Just Google him. The guy looks like Richie Incognito. Massive build, thick frame, just a physically intimidating presence. He's not as tall as Mekhi Becton, but built like a tank. I'd keep him on the radar. At center, I think Gray Zabel is going in the first round. I like him more at center than guard, but either way, he's going to be a really good pro. Now for tackles again, if the Raiders want a right tackle and Josh Simmons or Josh Connerly is still available in the second, I'd take either of them. Even Will Campbell, if he's there, would be worth considering in that round, but not over Belton or Booker. And just to wrap up on tackles, people ask why I'm not higher on Wyatt Millam. Look, the mock draft average has him around pick 74. Personally, I don't think he even goes in the top 4 or 5 rounds. First off, I see him more as a guard in the NFL. Second, at the Senior Bowl, he looked overwhelmed. West Virginia has a great O-line coach, but Millam didn't stand out the way you'd hope a top prospect would. Offensive line evaluation. In Morgantown, West Virginia, they run one of the cleanest offensive line schemes in the country. Their O-line coach, he's one of the best in the game, top 10 in the United States, no question. But when Wyatt Millam stepped onto the Senior Bowl stage, it didn't translate. He played a lot of snaps at guard, but he struggled, couldn't anchor, got overpowered. The tape told the story. Compare that to others, like Josh Connerly, strong, poised, held up on nearly every snap. Anthony Belton, he dominated. So for the Raiders, Millam in the second round, that's a no. Arante Ursary, he's got skill, but he's a step slow in his feet. That matters on Sundays. Kelvin Banks, now he's interesting. He can move, he's physical, but he's going to be a guard at the next level, not a tackle. And in this year's class, a lot of tackles will end up moving inside. Defensive tackle breakdown begins now. Let's talk trenches. Let's talk defensive tackles. Mason Graham, he's a first rounder, almost everyone agrees. But after that, it's wide open. Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, 3 names. All could be the first DT off the board. Walter Nolan might even go before Graham. So could Kenneth Grant. This DT class, it has no consensus number 1, not among NFL scouts. Media might say one thing, but inside league circles, it's different. Player fits for the Raiders. Now, if Derek Harmon slips to the second round, you think about it. He's like a younger Christian Wilkins, explosive, penetrating, loves the swim move. But for the Raiders, they need a one technique, a run stopper, a space eater. That's where Kenneth Grant comes in. Big frame, rare movement, incredible upside. Last year, Texas gave us T'Vondre Sweat. People doubted him, said he was just big, but he dominated. And now some say he could be the next Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence, arguably better than Jalen Carter right now. So if Kenneth Grant is there in the second round, you take him, no hesitation. A sleeper pick and a scouting lesson. There's another big man you should know, Deone Walker out of Kentucky, 6 feet 7 inches, 345 pounds, and he moves like he's 280. He's not going to play on the edge. He's not a 5 tech. He's your anchor, your wall in the middle. And rankings? Ignore the numbers next to his name. Most mock drafts are copy and paste. Trust your eyes. Trust the tape. I used to write for Just Blog Baby. Then I made the jump into scouting. Now I work with the Hula Bowl. I talk to agents. I talk to scouts, including one with the Seahawks. And what I've learned? Ignore the noise. Find your guy. For me, that guy is Deone Walker. Deone Walker, the rare giant who moves like a gazelle. Sometimes the stats lie. Sometimes the tape whispers. But in the case of Deone Walker, the truth lies in the trench. He's a mountain of a man, 325 pounds of power, and yet somehow he glides like a much smaller player. Jordan Davis started the trend. Massive defensive lineman, drafted not for production, but for potential. Dexter Lawrence followed. Then T'Vondre Sweat. Walker? He's next. But he's different. In Kentucky's 3-man front, Walker wasn't always in a position to shine, playing over the tackle instead of inside. That's scheme, not skill. And when the lights came on at the Senior Bowl, Walker lit up the field. Unblockable, fluid, violent. And that rep everyone points to, the one where a 5'10" guard held him up, that was a run-fit drill. Walker was too gapping, holding ground, not penetrating. A test of discipline, not dominance. A dominant force in mobile Senior Bowl week separates the pretenders from the pros. And in mobile, Deion Walker proved he was ready for Sundays. Against the top linemen in the country, players projected in the first and second round, Walker didn't just hold his own. He took over. He shot gaps like a linebacker. He reset the line like a wrecking ball. His tape at Kentucky might have raised questions. His tape in mobile? It answered them all. And like sweat before him, if Walker finds that next gear, if he decides he wants to be great, he could become the kind of player who anchors a defense for a decade. The next wave of second-round edge rushers. This year's draft is deep with edge talent, particularly in the second round. Names like Darius Alexander out of Toledo, twitchy, relentless, and explosive. A pure pass rusher who's tough to block one-on-one. Tyreek Williams, strong, steady, and stout against the run. Then there's Mike Green and James Pierce Jr. Green flashes Max Crosby-level technique, elite hands, relentless motor. He's been through the fire, off-field issues in high school and college. But the tape? It's electric. Pierce? He's raw. He's volatile. But with the right structure, leaders like Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins guiding him, he could be a star. These are the kinds of gambles that pay off. When you have the right locker room. Rising pass rushers with question marks, Donovan Eziruaku, Boston College. Say it however you like. His game speaks clearly. Elite first step. Bend around the edge. Disruptive in space. He's not a run stuffer. Not yet. But the burst is real. Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. A towering 6 feet 5 inches with a killer cross chop. If he can develop a counter move, he's got Max Crosby upside. And he knows it. Jackson studies Crosby's film like gospel. Braden Swinson is another name to watch. Long, agile, and disruptive. And while JT Twimalo brings raw strength and physicality, he might be more Tyree Wilson than Max Crosby, still searching for his rhythm off the edge. Closing thoughts and sleeper to watch. It's hard not to think back to the Tyree Wilson pick. A swing with the 7th overall selection, one that's still searching for solid ground. But this draft, it offers redemption. Princely Uman Milan out of Florida has the tools to be a top 15 player. Powerful hands, polished rush, and a nasty streak. At the Senior Bowl, he was one of the few who consistently won against top-tier tackles. With the right development, he could be the steal of the draft. The Raiders don't need a sure thing. They need a game changer, and in the second round, that kind of player might just be waiting. The edge rushers. In the chaos of the trenches, there are pass rushers, and then there are predators. One look at the tape, and it's clear. This guy's the latter. He might not have Von Miller's lightning-quick first step, but the resemblance is there. The balance, the bend, the burst. Braden Swinson? He's got first round written all over him. But if he's still there in the second, the Raiders should sprint to the podium. Swinson has top 10 edge potential in a class short on that kind of fire. And then there's Josiah Stewart. Brought in for a private visit, undersized at 6 feet, maybe a Sam linebacker, maybe a day 3 pick. But second round? That's a bridge too far. Want value? Tyler Barron is the name to circle. Underrated, overlooked, and absolutely undeniable on tape. His ranking? Criminal. He outplays the guys ahead of him. He dominates. The red flags are off-field, not on the field. That's worth weighing. J.J. Weaver brings more of the same. Reliable, versatile, ready-made. And don't forget Danny Strigo out of Minnesota. He didn't shine at the Senior Bowl, but he stole the show at the Hula Bowl. Built like a classic edge, smart, tough, fast. Not a second-rounder, but worth tracking. The linebackers are the beating heart of a defense. But in today's NFL, they're not first-round royalty anymore. They're warriors you find in the second, third, and fourth. Jahad Campbell? If he's there in round 2, the Raiders should pounce. He's tough. He's twitchy. He brings it. Same goes for Javon Walker. But 6th overall? That's a luxury pick. Too high. Too risky. Think of the top linebackers in the league. Few were drafted high. Devin Bush, Isaiah Simmons. The Lions gamble. None cracked the elite tier. Campbell might not either. He's good, but is he special in coverage? Probably not. And that's the separator. Still, in round 2, he's a steal. So is Carson Schwessinger out of UCLA. Pure instincts, a tackling machine, potential in coverage. He's the kind of linebacker who quietly anchors a defense. Demetrius Knight from South Carolina? Some say he's the best linebacker in the class. You could do a lot worse in the second round. And Danny Stutzman, he's a favorite, but more of a day 3 flyer. Depth at linebacker. This class isn't thin, it's just hidden. Deeper down the board lies David Benda of Texas. His athletic testing doesn't pop, but the tape, it tells a different story. He hits, he hunts, he finds the football. Is he a coverage linebacker? Not really. But here's the truth. If you want elite coverage on third down, play a safety. Let linebackers do what they're built to do. Chase, scrape, and strike. The Raiders don't need flash. They need function. And Benda brings it. No spotlight, no hype. Just good, old-fashioned football. The corner's cornerback is a position built on trust. Trust in technique. Trust in traits. Trust in timing. Will Johnson out of Michigan is as smooth as they come. So why the doubt? Maybe it's the shuttle time. Maybe it's questions about fluidity. But turn on the tape, and those questions fade. Fast. Some scouts believe Jaden Hill or Jahdae Barron could leapfrog him. But this class, it's not loaded at the top. There's no Jalen Ramsey, no Derek Stingley, no clear-cut superstar, and that could push corners further down the board than we've seen in years. Still, don't be shocked if someone like Maxwell Hairston sneaks into the first round. He's long, he's active, he fits multiple schemes. Travis Hunter, he's off the board early as a wide receiver. For the Raiders, there's one second-round name to remember, Shyheim Revel Jr. Before the injury, he was electric. His East Carolina tape showed elite movement and true man coverage ability. If he's healthy, he's a day 2 gem. The safeties. Some players see the field before the snap. Some just feel it. Malachi Starks is one of those players. Georgia's defense asks a lot, and Starks delivered more. He's instinctual, versatile, and always around the football. Picture Tyrann Mathieu, Budda Baker, Kyle Hamilton. That's the mold. If he slips to round 2, it's an easy call. He's a chess piece, able to line up in the box, play single high, or split field duties. He changes your defense on day 1. Nick Emenwari has the tools, size, athleticism, length, but how much is flash and how much is fire? He's still raw. He's still growing. Then there's Andrew Makuba. From Texas to the pros, he's got the range, the eyes, and the energy. 5 picks last year. Countless impact plays. He's ready. The final thought. The second round is where dynasties are built. It's where smart teams find blue-chip talent without the blue-chip cost. For the Raiders, this draft is loaded with opportunity. Edge rushers with upside, linebackers with tenacity, corners with attitude, and safeties with vision, all waiting to hear their name called. The Raiders hold the card. Now they need to play it right. The safeties and the strategy in today's NFL, the most valuable defenders don't just tackle. They take the ball away. And when it comes to safeties, the Raiders need more than just names on a depth chart. They need answers. Xavier Watts? He had 17 pass breakups last season. That's not production, it's disruption. Nick Emenwari and Kevin Winston Jr.? Either one would be a welcome addition in round 2. The Raiders need a true free safety. Someone who can range, someone who can run, someone who can erase mistakes from sideline to sideline. Right now, they don't have that. Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Polamau are built from the same mold, big, physical, downhill. But neither has proven they can play the deep post. Backpedaling, flipping the hips, running with a go route down the left sideline, it's not in their toolbox. Chin's had the time and proven he can't do it. Polamau, the flashes are there, but the consistency isn't. Missed tackles in space, missed opportunities on tape. It's not about replacing them. It's about upgrading. And the second round is the perfect place to do it, because that's where value meets vision. Raiders assistant GM JohnSpytek said it himself. This isn't a best player available draft. It's a balance, need and value together. That's how winning teams build. If your quarterback's in a contract year and the best player available is a corner, you draft the quarterback. If you need a running back and Ashton Jeanty's on the board, you don't pass on him for a tight end. You draft with purpose. And that's the key to this year's draft. Purpose. This class is deep, unusually deep. After the top 10 picks, the gap between pick 12 and pick 35, it's razor thin. Some prospects being mocked in round 1 could fall into round 3. Some day 2 guys might be waiting in round 5. Even offensive linemen, names like Cameron Williams and Wyatt Milam, could slide, simply because of scheme fit. Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks? Don't be surprised if teams value them more as guards than tackles. It's not about talent, it's about translation. Different teams see different things. One franchise's tackle is another's guard. One team's second rounder is another team's steal at pick 97. This draft won't be about consensus. It'll be about conviction. For the Raiders, that means finding their guy. Whether it's a sideline hawking safety, a tone-setting linebacker, or a game-changing edge. Because when the board starts falling, they need to be ready to rise.